Welcome to the DARE podcast, where it is all about helping people overcome anxiety and panic attacks. The DARE app has over 1 million downloads and is free to download at dareresponse.com. Now, without further ado, here is the DARE podcast.
Hi, our guest should be here shortly. We are going to have a fun webinar today. I don't want to spoil who's on, even though some of you might already know. Oh, thanks. I got my hair cut. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Vicki. So we'll have a guest for the first half of the call, and our focus is going to be on all things OCD. I know a lot of people have been asking questions about OCD and ERP and intrusive thoughts. It's always like a hot major topic. We're going to have that as our discussion for the first half of the call. And then the second half, she has to jump off halfway through. And so for the second half of the call, I'll just be taking and answering some of the questions that have come in. And here we are.
Hi.
It worked. Jenna,
it worked.
Hi.
We are here. Oh my gosh, 46 participants. Hi, you guys.
That should go up. We usually have about 100-ish, 200 in between there somewhere.
Hi. Oh my gosh, I love this. Hi, you guys. I don't know if anyone here knows me, but if you do, say hi. Oh my gosh, this is so cool.
It's fun. I love these webinars. So yeah, feel free to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I think we share a lot of mutual followers.
We do. And that's because we are actually telling you the legitimate stuff, you guys. I know it's not always easy to hear because it's not exactly what OCD or anxiety or fear wants to hear, but that's a good thing, right? So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jenna Overbaugh. I am a licensed professional counselor. I am currently in Wisconsin, but I'm licensed in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania over here in the States. And I've been working with people who have OCD, anxiety, and kind of all those related conditions, panic, so on and so forth, since 2008. So I knew very early on that I wanted to work with this population. I learned super early on about exposure and response prevention and all of those things. And I just love it. And I've had the wonderful opportunity of being able to help people understand these conditions from a different angle, kind of giving them the different things that they're not used to hearing from therapists, right? Like, not going to hear us tell you to relax or to do these like meditations or kind of those things like that you might hear from other therapists, but rather kind of go into the fear and have that like offensive strategy. I just love everything that DARE does. I love everything that Michelle posts. She is telling you the right stuff, you guys. So it is so nice to meet all of you.
And I'm paying Jenna $40 a minute to tell you all this.
It's not. I wanted to come on here. I asked Michelle, I hunted her down and I was like, I want to hang out. I want to do more because it's totally on point and you guys are in great hands.
Yeah. And I'm thinking at some point, you're going to get tired of hearing my voice. It's nice to sometimes hear the same information come from just a different tone of voice, a different angle, slightly different metaphor, analogy, but it's all to send the same message, which again, it's not about calming down. You don't calm down to an anxiety disorder. The disordered piece is like me battling with anxiety, me battling with my thoughts, me trying to do something about them because I find them uncomfortable or unpleasant, or I don't like how they make me feel. And then we get involved in this major state of doing. And so Jenna, I know, sings the same song we do. So we're here to sing it together.
It's a great song. Yeah. So, I am just coming off of a session. So this is like all super, super fresh, but, so you guys, like, I know so many, and I have lived experience with OCD too. I've always been an anxious person. So even when I was super young, like my earliest memories were being sick to my stomach before school, like, oh my gosh, who am I going to hang out with? Like, who am I going to sit with at lunch? What if the teacher asks me a question and I don't know the answer and I'm so embarrassed. But even as a little kid, like kindergarten, I knew that I didn't like that feeling. I didn't like to fight with that thing. I almost kind of always viewed anxiety as like a competition and like I was going to win. And so I would always go out of my way to sit with the scariest kids at school, to like raise my hand and kind of like just say that I didn't know the answer to that question or whatever, kind of rip the Band-Aid off. But then when I learned that that's actually the evidence-based treatment
Yeah,
for
sometimes you do the right
OCD,
things by accident.
I was like, I have to do this because I knew that I always wanted to be a therapist, but I also didn't want to be that therapist that like, we're going to talk about that and we're going to, we're going to like, here's a tissue, right? Like I am not that person myself. I don't feel like that's helpful. It always felt like when I did it, we were in circles. And I'm sure that so many of you guys feel that way too, right? Like when you do that, or when you've done that with a therapist, it feels like you're just in circles because OCD and anxiety, and I use those terms all interchangeably. I know you guys do too, which is amazing. Like whether it's OCD, anxiety, panic, whatever it is.
Phobic response.
It's all the same entity, right? So I see it that way. There are like very minute nuances, but overall, right? Like, the way that you approach these things are going to be very similar. And it's all about, pushing yourself a little bit more and more outside of your comfort zone in a way that's challenging but manageable, reducing those safety behaviors, things that you're doing externally, like Googling obsessively or, confessing to people, anything like that, but also the mental stuff, right? So the mental fight that Michelle often talks about, trying to logic your way out of these things. We got to drop that fight too, as difficult as it seems. And then also reducing avoidance. So, if there are things that you guys are avoiding due to fear or worry or panic or anxiety, we got to get you to the point where you can, do those things. And it's going to take courage, but the more that you do those courageous things, the more confident you'll feel in yourself.
Yeah. And somebody just posted here. I don't know. You have access to the chat too. You can open up the chat. Can we post questions to be asked? Yeah. So we get submitted questions ahead of time, but you guys can also post in the chat. It would be best to make it more about OCD-ish type stuff. I was going to say OCD and anxiety, but that's what they're always about. But sometimes we have some more specialized, right? Like we had a whole, a webinar on eating disorders a few months ago.
Gotcha.
Okay. So I'm just looking in the chat here. So yeah, anybody here dealing with this, or like, here's the word dealing, right? Or have had years of trying to figure out the root cause of why I can't stop thinking about this thought, which kind of makes you keep thinking about this thought, which is when you're kind of digging deep and spending a lot of time turned inward. It's it's an inward turn disorder. You guys know I hate that term, but like the disordered piece is the amount of time I'm spending, what I'm doing about the thing I don't like, not the thing I don't like. The O of OCD, the O is really just the subject of my problematic behavior, not the problem. So, and that's why anybody here have like Jenna, we were talking yesterday, like, what about this subtype? What about this subtype? What about harm OCD? It's all the same. Yeah. So that's probably the most common question, or like common, like, but what about this? Or, but what about real event OCD? But what if I'm actually worried about something that actually happened? And it's like, it's all the same, right? So they've actually done research to show that everyone in the world has and experiences intrusive thoughts, ideas, images, impulses, whatever. Kind of these spam experiences that come into our awareness out of nowhere. It's like, what the heck was that? Oh my gosh, that's weird. Everyone in the world experiences those. It's just that, obviously not everybody has OCD or a disorder. And it's because the thoughts aren't the problem. Like Michelle said, it's the source of the problematic behavior. And so it just goes to show, right, that it's like, it's not the obsessions that are the problem. It's not the thoughts that are the problem. It's our misinterpretation of those as being important. That, oh my gosh, that must mean something about me. Oh my gosh, that's my responsibility now. I have to figure that out. And the inability or the unwillingness to take that chance that it doesn't need answering. Right. I was just meeting with someone who, and so many of you probably, might be able to relate to this, but the fearfulness that like, what if I'm going crazy? Right. Like, what if I'm going to have one of the number one? Yep.
What if I'm going to go crazy? Like I looked at myself in the mirror. This person was looking at themselves in the mirror for like 20 minutes straight to make sure that they could recognize themselves. And then of course, right? Like the more that you look at anything, you get twisted, right? And it's just perception. It's just how our brain works. And so, yeah, my mind is constantly telling me that I'm going crazy. Yes.
Yep,
Yes.
you're on the right call. Yep.
So we talked about like, everyone has that experience. Like we've all had that experience where we like feel our phone vibrating in our pocket, but our phone is not in our pocket. Right. So it's not the feeling, like that feeling is real. Like I felt my freaking phone vibrating in my pocket. That feeling is real. Your interpretation of what that means is not necessarily rooted in reality. Right. So it's the narrative, it's the imaginal narrative that we create about these things that is the problem. And then our subsequent acting on it and trying to figure it out. OCD and anxiety kind of usually comes in the form of a question, right? Like, well, what does this mean? Or why did you feel that way? Or, is that something that you need to do? And as long as you are engaging in the answering of that versus, just allowing that question to be there and be completely unfazed by it or acting unfazed by it, I should say, right. It's going to keep calling. I think of OCD and anxiety like a telemarketer. Like as long as you are answering the question, you are
saying the Facebook targeted ads. As long as you keep clicking on them, you're going to keep showing them to you.
100%. That's such a good analogy. They're like targeted ads, and like, you can get those weird ads every once in a while. And, I don't know where the heck that came from. I'm just going to scroll by it. Or you can, oh my gosh, why am I getting targeted ads about this? And now all this, like, you've just literally put that into the internet. Like,
you
what
clicked
did you
it.
just do?
You clicked it. Why? I order something from wish.com and then see what they think you want next. Because it's some crazy thing that pops up next. Oh, I ordered ribbon. And now wish.com thinks I want a clear bodysuit. Okay. And so if that random thing pops up and you, again, it's get involved in it. Oh my God, why would that pop up? And when it comes to thoughts, usually, what I hear oftentimes too is people are almost oblivious to their thoughts until suddenly that light gets a little brighter and they're like, wait, what the hell? I thought I was always in charge of my thoughts. I thought thoughts, this has come up a bunch of times for me. I thought thoughts only came up when I had them come up. And so the only thoughts that were in my head were the one, you've heard this a million times, right? Yeah. Were the ones that I've made until one day I became aware of some random spontaneous thought. That's what I call them. Spontaneous random thought that I happened to find unpleasant popped up. And then it became, it's that. Guy, and you guys hear me call it the gasping and clutching of pearls response. That's actually the beginning of the problem, not the thought.
Yeah.
Because other people that have intrusive thoughts without a problem with it, their response might still be a jolt. They might still have a reaction, but they go, huh. And they
continue to do whatever it was that they were doing.
Yes.
And people get stuck on that too. It's like, well, what am I supposed to do if I'm not rich? It's like, keep doing whatever it was that you were doing. I don't care if you were picking your nose, if you were going for like, you keep doing whatever it was that you were doing, right? Like you allow that to be there. Right. And like someone is mentioning sitting with the uncertainty and swimming in the uncertainty. It's like, sitting with uncertainty is not, allowing uncertainty. It's something that you do, or it's something that you allow. It's not something that you do.
Yes.
Like it is I always describe it as, like a math equation. Like we are not adding anything by not engaging with these thoughts, right? Like we are not adding something. Mm-hmm. We are removing something that was never supposed to be there in the first place, which is the interpretation of the response, the taking responsibility for the thoughts, the interpreting the thought as important, the subsequent rituals and all that stuff. Like those things were never meant to be there in the first place. Mm-hmm. That is the abnormalcy of it all. We're actually removing that piece of the equation. We're not adding anything.
Right. And it's not to then have the goal of now the thoughts are gone. It's no, now the thoughts are left alone and allowed to keep flowing down the thought river like all the other thoughts flow down the thought river. They don't disappear, right? If your brain is sort of like a library, as you learn things, you accrue thoughts and knowledge. It's just a matter of, do I take those books off the bookshelf? Are they useful to me to use them right now? Or did a thought pop up and I noticed it? I'm like, oh yeah, there's that thought. I don't really need to use that for life right now. So I'm going to let it stay there on the bookshelf, not take it out of my head. Right.
I hear a popping. Why do I hear a popping?
A popping on your end?
I hear, are you like leaning on the keyboard?
No. Do you guys hear a popping?
I hear like something clicking. Do you not hear it? If you don't hear it, then I won't.
No, I don't hear anything.
Okay.
My chat people hear it? No?
It's something on my end. Okay.
Oh, you just said
what? Okay. Again, like it's one of those weird things, right?
Oh, now I hear it, but I hear it through your end. I hear it on your side.
I know, Barbara. I'm like, I'm obsessing. No, I'm not. I can literally hear something.
Yeah, now I hear it, but I hear it like coming from.
I hear it now. I got it. Sorry, guys. Hey, this was just real life. I just had the thought like, oh my gosh, am I going crazy? And then I had the other thought, like, am I manifesting this? Like more of like a spiritual thing? Like, am I talking about going crazy and all of these things? And the universe has now just like made me have a psychotic break. But guys, like I'm here, right? Like I didn't stop. I allowed those thoughts to keep coming and they came and we figured it out, right? Like we jumped into action. We actually engaged in problem solving, which is
actual problem.
Yeah. My freaking notebook was on my keyboard. Yeah. So, and that's something someone mentioned above. You know, I just can't lean into it all because I don't believe it works deep down because of the fear. How do you get past this? It's all about taking chances. Mm-hmm. It's not, you're never going to be able to like take those leaps of faith and be like totally confident. Like I am totally confident in resisting this compulsion right now. I am totally confident. I feel good about not doing this compulsion right now. Like, no, it's going to be really freaking scary. It's going to be really scary. You're going to have that nagging sense of irresponsibility. You're going to have that nagging sense that you're missing something, that you're doing something wrong, that something bad is going to happen.
I set my future in stone now. How awful. Like, so I just wrote the law of attraction of what I do manifest. So if I think it long enough, I'm going to think it true. Doesn't work like that, guys. It doesn't work like that, but it's me treating it as true that keeps us stuck in the cycle. Right. And the anxiety piece is these little guys who come and go, I gotta do something right now, do something about that thought. And he sends you energy so you can keep doing. That's why my post the other week kind of got shared all over the place. Anxiety and OCD are doing disorders. And it's not about doing.
Did you go viral, sister?
No, not really, but it got shared more than the other ones. I don't go viral. I'm like, 82 people saw my thing on TikTok 3 weeks ago.
It doesn't matter. Those 82 people are special. They're special. They're here and they love you.
So it's like this idea of they are doing disorders because the disorder is I'm stuck in doing for something that's non-doable. Thoughts, non-doable. Thoughts are noticeable. Feelings, non-doable. Feelings are noticeable, not actionable. Physical sensations, noticeable. And I think there's a lot of, I don't like all these terms, but undiagnosed OCD, because it's really a lot of us talking about, I have health anxiety. But what it actually looks like is me, every time something comes up, this becomes the obsession. And it's my action and my involvement and my Googling and my searching and the reassuring. And is it gone yet? And 100 doctor's visits to get rid of the discomfort, or because I've attached meaning to this discomfort.
Yeah.
This piece is the problematic piece, not this. So I'm not changing this to then check to see if it worked to change this.
And that's why it bounces around, you guys, right? Like I hear so many times that like OCD or anxiety is like whack-a-mole, right? It's like whack-a-mole. It's like this thing and then it's something else, and then it's something else, then it's this, then it's this. And it's like, is that not just even more confirmation that this is not the problem? Because if this was the problem, right? Like that would be the only thing. That would be the only way that these things come up. Like you would otherwise be chill as a cucumber, like being able to kind of sit with all of the things. Yeah. So Michelle, you mentioned feelings. Like, how do you, like get that through to people, like that feelings are complete crap and like we don't listen to them and we can't be guided by them, because that is like really a hard sticking point for people.
Yeah. And it's whatever that sticking point is, because somebody's like, oh yeah, that's feeling, but this thought. I was like, I don't care about my thoughts, but this physical sensation. So feelings, I usually view it as like, it's kind of like if you were to look out the window and notice the weather right now, like I'm in New York, it's cold, but it's clear and it's sunny. And you go, yep, that's the weather right now. They are noticeable. I notice that I feel blank right now. Whether I notice I feel sad, I notice I feel angry. It's kind of like the present state that I'm in. And like I always say, like Barry's nice and I'm kind of a dick, but like there's this unspoken line of dare, whether you like it or not. And human beings have the capacity to feel all forms of discomfort. But I think over time, that we've been able to be more comfort. Like you just sipped a drink and you're putting things on your eyes so you can see better. Like we are able to adjust life around us. I have a blanket on my lap, right? Because I'm a little chilly. But we've gotten so used to this expectation of comfort that we have no tolerance for discomfort. And human bodies are made to feel uncomfortable. We are designed to feel pain. We kind of stay alive all these years
because of that.
Because our bodies, the way our bodies communicate with us, like we need to do things for our bodies to survive. And so like you wouldn't think to stop and pee every once in a while if you were running through the jungle. If you feel like I have to pee and it feels uncomfortable and I do something and that discomfort goes away. We're all kind of fueled by this negative reinforcement on I feel bad and I did something and now I feel less bad. And that's kind of, and when we get stuck on, like I was saying to somebody, nobody ever books a therapist appointment. Nobody's ever booked a call with me saying, like, I'm having a rough go at life and I feel like I should be feeling worse, but I actually feel pretty good. So I think my emotions are dysregulated because I'm feeling too peaceful and I want to speak to a therapist to feel less peaceful because I'm feeling too much good stuff right now. Have you ever had a call for that?
No. It's so true, right? Like I think I listened to this conference, this discussion. It was part of the IOCDF, the International OCD Foundation, and it was like how how Zen Buddhism can actually like help in treatment, and it's all about how like suffering is part of the human condition. Like it is the passageway into having a meaningful life. Like there's going to be uncomfortable emotions. Again, whether you like it or not. Like, I love that. I feel like I need a shirt that says that because it all comes back down to like, it's going to be this way, whether you like it or not. Like those things are going to keep happening, whether you like it or not. And so like, the more that you keep fighting with it, like, again, it's that back to that like ACT metaphor, acceptance and commitment therapy of like, you know, you're fighting with it. You're like tugging that rope, that tug of war. And the only way that you're going to win is if you drop the rope.
Absolutely.
It feels like dropping the rope is a risk. It feels like dropping the rope is doing something irresponsible or doing something bad, or, you know, there's going to be a huge risk involved in dropping that rope. And you also have to recognize, you guys, that there's a huge risk in continuing that fight. Like, the consequences are there. You are straining relationships. You are, you know, deteriorating your mental health. You are living a life at like 60 to 70% capacity at best, right? Like, you know, there's risks associated with continuing that fight too, even though it also feels risky to drop it.
Right. And even with somebody posted about, but my thoughts are still out and they're still arguing back.
Totally.
There's no arguing. You don't have to argue. Like, this is one of my examples I've used before. My son came home a few years ago and he was, you know, they have different math than what we learn math. And he was like, so mommy, yeah, 9 plus 3 is 15. I'm like, oh, no, it's not. 9 plus 3 is 12. He's like, well, no, it's 15 because you take it and you group it into tens and then like it went on for a while and he was getting annoyed and I was getting annoyed. And then I realized like, wait, the point of this conversation is to not prove him wrong and say, I'm right. Really, at this point, the goal is to just sort of end the conversation. And so, you know what I did? Okay. she's great.
And OCD is like that. Anxiety is like that. Like, it's like a stubborn 10-year-old who will who will die on that hill, right? Like, OCD will die on that hill. Like that, no, this is important and you need to listen to me. And this is really bad. And this is your responsibility. And Michelle doesn't know what she's talking about. Da, 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 da. And it's like, you have to be willing to just, let bygones be bygones, I guess. And like, it's all so much easier said than done.
Yeah.
It's all so much easier said than done, but
yeah. So how do you know? Like, how do you know? How do you know it's OCD and not something else? How do you know it's not an actual underlying health condition? And
you don't.
That's the answer, guys. You don't. The answer to most, especially the existential OCD stuff, the answer is I don't know. That's usually the beginning of our problem. I don't know the answer to this. Better find it, because usually it's fueled by this, but that bothers me that I don't know the answer. So I need to do something so I can get rid of bothered. And as long as I just do this the right way or put this water down the right way, it feels less bothered. And then our capacity for bothered gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And again, I don't know why we all seem to be the last stop on the train, but I'd love to be more of the first stop on the train when it comes to people. Before you drop $50,000 on trying to find out why I need to put this water bottle down just so, and is it connection to my past? And it's the habit loop is what keeps it going. You continuing to do is what keeps you continuing to do.
Because every time that you do, you give that urge, image, thought, credibility.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, thank goodness you put down that cup again, because otherwise something bad would have happened.
Right.
Thank goodness you did that, because otherwise you wouldn't have been able to handle it otherwise.
Right. And look, the bad thing didn't happen. And so good thing I put that cup down, because the bad thing didn't happen. So next time I think about a bad thing happening, I'm going to put the cup down the right way so the bad thing doesn't happen. Guess what? Right. That bad thing was going to or not going to happen, whether you put that cup down the right way.
There's a story. I don't know if I'm going to get this story exactly correct, but to demonstrate that point, like imagine a guy in New York City who carries around this like huge 10-foot golden pole, and like he carries it around everywhere. And it's like really weird. People are looking at him and we're all like, oh my gosh, why are you carrying around that big pole? And he says, it keeps away the elephants. And imagine you look at him and you're like, what? Like, that doesn't keep away like, there are no elephants here. Like, why are you doing that? And he's like, yeah, it really works, doesn't it? Like, there were never going to be any elephants.
Right.
There were never going to be any elephants.
Show up. And should one happen to just show up anyway, because, well, it could there's a Bronx Zoo. An elephant could get out. And so we try and find a could. Well, then guess what? You would attend to the elephant should it show up here. But our problematic piece is us perpetual fight of here trying to prevent there. And your perpetual fight of here does nothing but keep cranking out your fight energy here. So now there's fight energy here with fight here, but without a here problem. Mm-hmm. So I know you have to run at 11:30.
I love this discussion so much. I want to come back. I have to run to a session. I wanted to just get on any little way that I could. So I have to hop off, but you guys, you're in great hands. I hope that this isn't the last time you hear from me. And yeah.
Tell us how to reach you.
Yeah. So I'm over on Instagram, at Jenna.Overbaugh. So just my first and my last name with a little dot in the middle. Jenna.Overbaugh. And I also have a podcast called All the Hard Things. So you guys can find me there too. We talk about all this stuff. So, but yeah, I'm sure, you guys are in awesome hands. Just do what you can to be open, to listen, because she's really, really special. And what you have here with Dare is really, really special.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for joining. Maybe we'll do a social media thing that everybody can access to. Like we'll go live or something if anybody on the chat wants to pop on live on Facebook. So follow us and follow Dare, and we'll do something soon.
Awesome. Sounds good. See ya. Bye, guys.
Thanks for joining us. Bye. All right, guys, you're stuck with me for the next half an hour. So Did you guys find that helpful? Did you hear her? I know she's not works for DARE, but she's saying the same thing we are. And that's why it doesn't matter if you heard it from DARE, if you heard it from Jenna, or you hear from our other guests that come in. It's this approach of how I treat thoughts, not the thoughts, and not changing how I'm acting to get rid of thoughts. It's how I'm acting here. And if I keep acting as if there's some sort of threat, my body's going to stay in threat mode. Okay. And so we think we're going to fight ourselves out of this. We don't. We fight and the fight keeps us in here. The fight does not get us out. The fight, the introspection, the turned inward, the analysis, the hanging on to something here, trying to prevent there is the problem. And so somebody just put, so allow the thought and redirect gently. Yes, because if something's allowed, it's noticed, it's acknowledged, and if it's not danger, you get to take your eye off of it while it's allowed to remain present, okay? And notice that effort. The threat feels so real. Yes, our senses can be tricked all the time. I forgot to use this example when Jenna was still on. Right before this webinar started, I blew my nose, okay? I grabbed tissue and I blew my nose. And I looked down and it was all red. And I had, this all happened very quick within a second. And I went, oh my God, I have a bloody nose. So I noticed the tissue is red. That's the facts. The facts are I noticed there's red on the tissue. My interpretation of those facts, my story about those facts. I did not consciously do this, but my next story was, oh my gosh, I have a bloody nose. And then I looked again and I apparently blew my nose like this and wiped all the lipstick off the side of my mouth. So it turns out, didn't have a bloody nose. Okay, it was my lipstick on the tissue. But that didn't stop my body from giving me this whoosh because, oh my gosh, something happened. I'm about to start a call and I'm going to be bleeding all over my face. I don't get bloody noses. Why would I have a bloody nose, right? And so once we have that story, we kind of just keep telling stories based on that story. But I want you to go back to the facts and just tell a different story about the facts. Okay, what happens is we take a story like, oh my gosh, I have a bloody nose. I can't have a bloody nose. What if what if there's something wrong with me? Oh gosh, what if there's something wrong with my brain? And so then we tell a story based on the last story rather than maybe tell a different story based on the facts. And so I had, again, wiped lipstick onto the tissue. My interpretation of that lipstick was bloody nose. And when I had that story, almost instantaneously, I got a whoosh in my stomach of that something happened. But now that I've identified that nothing's happened, I'm still left with the leftover whoosh. I still have the energy. And again, that doesn't mean I need to do anything about that energy either. Okay, it's just, that's the sign of a hardworking, good old, plain old, regular human body. I identified something that was a potential threat, and my body put itself into threat response mode. That's great. That's fabulous. That's what it should do. That's how bodies survive. But once I identify there's not a right now threat, I'm still stuck with leftover energy. And so your now what is really to just leave it alone. And like Jenna was saying, not, okay, I got to pull out DARE, follow the steps of DARE, and practice leaving it alone. And now I have to diffuse, and I have to run toward. Guys, don't get stuck in the steps. Those letters were just really just maybe too much of a detailed version on how to just let it be. Oh, that thing, that's not danger, then it's allowed. It's not only it's allowed, run towards, it can be there all day long. I can keep being scared, but I still don't have to attend to this red on the tissue because it's not a bloody nose. So I don't have to keep using this energy just because my body keeps sending it to me. Okay. As long as I kind of go back about life for the sake of life, my body will regulate itself, not desperately get involved in a task to check to see if it worked and if it's gone and if I calm down. That's the part we're getting stuck in. Okay. So I just want to make sure that's really, really clear, especially for people that are newer on this program, because it's kind of an upside down approach to maybe things that you've been told before. So I'm going to get into some questions that came in. This is a good chance to go through some of these questions. Let's see. Let me just open this up here. Oh, shoot. Hold on. Let me just, I'm going the wrong direction. Sorry, guys. 1 second. I want to pull up the questions that came in for this month, December 14th. Okay. So I'm hoping that even just that chat in the beginning even kind of helps pre-answer some of these. So I highlighted a few questions here that were kind of like certain themes. Here's one on derealization. Another thing that we can be very easy to get stuck involved in the fight of, because the present experience of feeling DP and DR is inherently uncomfortable, and mostly because we attach it to some worst case scenario. We usually hook it, usually DPDR, we hook it to forever, or we hook it to crazy. Know anybody on here dealing with DPDR, derealization, depersonalization, and hook it to worst case scenario? So here's this question. I've dealt with derealization for several years. I found out what it was earlier this year and have found relief and have found some relief since. But how do I use DARE to really eliminate all DPDR symptoms? Thank you. Finding your YouTube channel was immense relief for me. Who heard the word that made me go? What's the word? What's the line? Yeah. Yep. Jean. Eliminate. Right? So you see, and this is where we kind of get stuck, and it's very subtle. And these are my subtle fighters and my smarties that are like, again, like, yeah, okay, yeah, I get it. I'll accept and allow. I'll accept and allow this thing. Where's my little black fuzzy? Here, this thing. Here's DPDR. This represents feeling disconnected. And now I'm just going to accept, oh yeah, this is allowed to be here. Oh my gosh, why isn't it gone? That's the problematic piece. That's not actually allowing something to be there. That's not acceptance. That's tolerating. That's conditional acceptance. That's like, I'll let it be here for now as long as it's gone soon. And if it's not gone soon, then what's the point of allowing it? Okay, this is 90% probably of my phone calls that people book a one-to-one call with me. I'm trying DARE and I get it and it makes sense, but I'm not sure if it's working because the thing I'm trying to get rid of is still there, even though I'm accepting and allowing it all day long. Okay, and so we're not accepting and allowing to change this. You trying to change this in the beginning actually started the problematic piece, which is this must be gone. Okay. So and then I've had a bunch of questions similar to that were submitted that were more about like, and that I was dealing with this and then this went away and then it came back. And now this thing is back and now I'm struggling with it again. And I want you guys to really see clearly that there's two different things. Return of fluctuating discomfort, various forms of discomfort. I'm using that term lightly. So just take discomfort to the nth degree. I'm not talking about return of danger. I'm talking about return of discomfort, whether it's dizzy, detached, nausea, thoughts. Here comes something back I don't like. And now I have a return of behaviors. Now I'm struggling with DPDR again. The struggle piece is the disordered piece we focus on, not the return of the thing we didn't like. Okay, so again, if you're using DARE to eliminate all of DPDR systems, you're not actually using the mindset of DARE. You're not using the correct intention of what DARE is. You're just using DARE as another weapon to try and get rid of a thing you don't like. It doesn't work that way. The meaning attached to DPDR, we have to change. The story about it, because I know just from talking to many people that many people actually experience DPDR on top of the other things that they're experiencing, but they don't give two craps about the disconnected feeling. They might report it to me as something that pops up. Like anybody here have that experience of, oh yeah, I feel unreal. I feel unreal in my body. The world looks kind of weird and I don't feel like I belong here. But you kind of don't care. Maybe there's no anxiety attached for it. Or here's some. So see, there are real people like this that exist, that have this feeling, and they really don't care. And because they don't spend their time involved in trying to get rid of it, you allow the natural process of it to go away on its own. Okay. And so whatever we're desperately trying to get rid of the most is probably the stuff that we notice sticks around the longest. And that's the paradox that we get stuck in. And so you're not using DARE to eliminate DPDR symptoms, right? The other ironic piece of this is that feeling disconnected is another way that our body serves to protect itself, right? Fight, flight, freeze, and protect. And it's sort of similar for anybody who really maybe doesn't know what this experience means. It's a kind of similar state to if you've ever gotten really terrible news, really bad news that was unexpected, and your body goes into this sort of shock mode. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Where you're like weirdly okay with a terrible situation. There's no emotional response yet. Everything's just kind of like, oh, that person died? Oh, okay. And there's nothing. You're almost sort of detached from the story and from the experience. You guys, anybody ever experienced that? Like something actually happened, but your response is just sort of like kind of blunted. And know that that is your body's protective mechanism, knowing that, wow, here's a really bad thing. This is going to be a lot to get all at once. So let's just pull the curtains and block it for a bit. And then usually that feeling of shock over time, when you start kind of getting into, oh my gosh, they really passed away. Oh, they really died. Suddenly you start feeling those feelings again. And then here comes you go into the state of, again, shock and maybe disbelief. And then it starts, like the other feelings start trickling in. And so DPDR is sort of like, wow, I feel detached, which is in itself it's not a danger. But then we notice feeling detached and we go, I don't like this feeling. And we fight detached. And now detached gets marked as danger. So now your alarm clearly shows you how detached you are and then tries to detach you from the feeling of detached. Okay. So this is that weird cycle we get stuck in, just like if maybe it's not a detached response, it's a flee response. For me, I got a lot of that. I got whoosh, feels like I need to, feels like I need to get out of here. And I would leave. So I always kept feeling like I need to flee. That's how flee response feels. But I wasn't actually fleeing from something. I was fleeing because I felt like I had to flee. And so here comes flee response, but when there's nothing to run from, I'm only running because I feel like running. Okay, here comes, I feel disconnected. And now we treat disconnected as danger and we fight disconnected. We try and not feel disconnected. We engage in same survival behaviors for something we don't need to survive through. Okay, so this is not a threat, but when you treat it as a threat, your alarm will keep sending you energy and clearly show you the thing you're trying to get rid of. Sorry, I drew pen all over my finger before. Okay, so if you're checking to see if it's gone, that's not DARE. You can, if you notice you're checking in, oh, I notice I feel somewhat disconnected and it's gone, it's back. What if it lasts forever? Notice that storyline. Oh, good, it's gone. Oh my goodness, it's gone. Oh yeah, it's back. Oh, now it's back. Better do something, because what if it lasts forever? I can't tolerate life if this thing lasts forever. So better do something about this to prevent that, which was back into the conversation I was having with Jenna. Picture feeling connected and disconnected as sort of like a fluctuating dial. Kind of like your bass and treble on your old stereos, right? Where you might notice different fluctuations throughout the day, the week, the month, the year, of feeling more or less connected. Just like throughout the day, you might feel more or less energy. You might feel more or less hunger. You might feel more or less irritability. Picture it more of like a screenshot of what's happening right now. And so for whatever reason, at this particular time, you may feel more or less connected to reality. Okay. The world outside you may feel very connected to it or very disconnected or some shade of gray in between. Again, that's noticeable, not actionable. I'm less interested in how you feel and more interested on, well, what's your story about that feeling? What about that feeling? Why are you telling me about that feeling? Not just it feels inherently unpleasant, but what about it? What does that mean? Oh, this means this is a sign of psychosis. This means I'm becoming detached from reality. That meaning we attach to it then determines the amount of fight we attach to it. Okay. Sorry, guys, long-winded version, but I'm trying to kind of also answer other types of questions. So that could have been DPDR, but that could have also been chest tightness. That could have also been nausea. That could have also been thoughts. Do you guys see how even if you're not dealing with DPDR, how it's that set of responses and actions and behaviors that's the problematic piece, not the feeling, not the present feeling. Okay, let's keep scrolling through. Let's see how many I can get to before we run out of time here. Okay, here's one. How do you stop white knuckling? Well, let me just check this off to make sure I answer. The answer, stop white knuckling. Again, I know sometimes I come off as a jerk, and I'm going to address that as well. I'm not trying to be a jerk. What I'm trying to do is just keep it simple and pragmatic, because I don't want you guys to waste your time, and I don't want you to waste your energy, and I don't want anybody to spend any more time trying to really figure out what's wrong with them, because most of my phone calls are me showing people that there's nothing actually wrong with you. Nothing for you to do in your brain. Your brain and your body are responding exactly as they should. There's something wrong with maybe how you're treating your brain and your body, your story about what's happening. But how do you stop white knuckling? You stop white knuckling. White knuckling is actions and behaviors. Again, easier said than done. But what I'm telling you is that you hanging on serves no purpose unless you're literally hanging on to the ledge of a cliff. Hanging on just sends the message to your body that we're hanging on. Letting go isn't a doing thing. How do you stop white knuckling is whatever you're doing. Like, squeeze your fists really hard right now, guys. Squeeze. That's doing. How do I just stop? You just don't keep doing this behavior. You disengage from that behavior. You don't have to do more about it. You just, when I notice I'm involved in fight, I'm involved in a battle, what am I battling? Am I battling something that's actionable? If you are, fight the actionable thing. Am I fighting my thoughts? My fight is my problem. My fight is the problematic piece. My fight is what's draining my energy. My fight is where the frustration is coming from, because I'm trying to fight something that my fight doesn't get rid of. My fight is not going to change that weather. My fight or lack of fight changes my story about that weather, the amount of energy I use. If you are stuck in desperate fight mode about dizzy, it's not the dizzy that's exhausting your life. It's you acting like this through dizzy. That's where the exhaustion and the frustration comes from. It's like if a hologram of a tiger popped up and I saw it and it bothered me and I got scared, and now I'm spending the rest of my time involved in punching the hologram of a tiger. Oh my gosh, this tiger, it's exhausting. It's 24/7. Who are my 24/7ers? Anybody feeling something 24/7? How do I just stop punching this tiger? Stop punching the tiger. How? Because you don't have to. You don't have to punch a hologram of a tiger. So stop. Not try and stop. And that's when I go back into being mode. I can be still while this hologram of a tiger is still present, and while my body's still sending me doing energy, I can still be still in the midst of it. That's the hard part. That's the easier said than done, where I practice truly doing nothing. And that's why it's not stopping white knuckling means I notice I'm white knuckling and I realize I don't need to do this anymore, rather than stop white knuckling. I'm white knuckling and I'm going, stop doing that. That's just another version of fight. These are my very best fighters. You're trying to fight yourself out of fighting. You don't fight yourself out of fighting. You release your fight. And so if you're hanging on tight, let go. If you're breathing like this, well, this is survival breathing. This is how I breathe if I'm running from bears. I don't need to breathe like that. This is how I would breathe if I was not running from bears. Again, not using breathing to regulate your body. Just go back to how would I be breathing if I wasn't in danger? I would just be breathing like this. Oh, I wouldn't be like this. I would be like this. Notice your posture. Notice how you're holding your body. Notice if your eyes are locked on something. If you're locked and loaded on something, that's how you should act for bears. If I'm saying, it's okay, I accept and allow this thought, and 3 hours later, I'm still staring at that thought, well, I need to treat this thing as if it's allowed. And that means I take my eyes off of it and I go about my day while it's allowed to be here. And so I use this example, like somebody was asking me the same thing. How do I just stop fighting? You're fighting that you're fighting. And I'm just here to release the fight. It's kind of like trying to explain to somebody how to pee. I know that sounds weird, but like, think about it. Okay. After you go through the mechanics of, right, getting ready to pee, the actual process of peeing, what do you do? What's the mechanism? Like, what do you have to do? You kind of don't do anything. You let your body pee, right? It's another version of a release. It's a release mechanism. And like, you don't do anything to do it. You allow your body to do it. And then your body just does it. Am I getting into weird territory here? Does this kind of make sense? You just stop fighting, and not because you try and stop fighting. You just stop. You become a beer. Honestly, it takes more effort and energy to hang on, and it takes no effort to let go. No energy, no steps, no boxes to check off. It requires, again, a leap of faith, trust, surrender, and it requires you doing this in the midst of fear, right? Feels like I need to hang on. Yes, because you keep hanging on. And as long as you keep hanging on, you're sending yourself a message of danger. Your alarm will keep ringing as long as it keeps getting a message of danger. You have to send it a message of safety. The message of safety comes from how you're acting now. So that's where release comes in. Not trying to release or beating myself up for not doing it right. Michelle, it makes it sound so easy. And now I'm beating myself up because I should just be able to do this. Nope. Somebody sent in a question about self-compassion and self-acceptance and being kind to yourself. Absolutely. And we talked about that a lot on the last webinar I did with Patrick. Absolutely. And we posted about this in the Dare Advanced, our monthly coaching group. This was posted in the group, and it was a great post. It was not posted by me. It was how I speak to myself, right? Self-love, kindness, right? How we talk to ourselves. That's not actually the anxiety disorder. I've developed a habit of speaking badly to myself, and it just doesn't help the process of coming out of this anxiety disorder. Okay. That's not inherent. I don't heal from anxiety and I treat myself nicely. Usually people develop a habit of speaking to themselves that way. Again, the reasons why could vary. Maybe it's because, well, this is how I was treated my whole life growing up. Maybe I was treated like a piece of shit, and now I talk to myself like I am. Maybe not. Maybe, well, this is how I've always motivated myself. Just get it done. Come on, you stupid, right? And I almost like like in like a punishment sort of way, and it gets me to do things. But it's not really helpful in the long term when it comes to this. So like positive self-talk, being kind to yourself, taking good care of yourself, being gentle with yourself is good for everything. That's kind of like more of an overall wellness approach. And me being kind of pragmatic about things is really just me saying, yeah, just be nice. You can be nice. Absolutely. Be kind to yourself. You also don't need to treat yourself like a fragile rose petal to be kind to yourself. You can also speak not just kind, gentle words to yourself, like it's going to be okay, but empowering words. Like, yeah, that was hard. And look what you did. And yes, you're a rock star. That's why I know you'll get the calming piece from Barry. You'll probably never get that from me. And as Jenna was saying, probably not from her. That's just not me. But it doesn't mean that's not Dare. Dare is my ability to feel discomfort. And it means, yes, it's okay to feel uncomfortable and to be very kind and gentle to myself. And also to show myself that, yeah, not just, it's okay, Michelle, you can do hard things, but show me I can do hard things and watch me do them. And great job doing hard things. Wow, those thoughts were really hard. Wow, I am feeling really scared. And I'm going to just kind of sit with myself while I feel really scared. So I wanted to address that too. Yes, being really self-deprecating to yourself does not help any process of change. Punishment is the least effective means of change. Least effective. It's good old classical conditioning. Punishment is the least effective way to make change. And it's almost like our own form of self-punishment by beating myself up, by judging myself, by setting unattainable expectations and then beating myself up for not meeting them. And every time I get something wrong, I failed. And so, yes, that's definitely a piece of all wellness approach, not just anxiety. This helps with anything else that you might be struggling with. My example, I think I used it on the last webinar, was it's kind of like if I'm learning how to ride a bike, but I'm riding a bike, but I'm also throwing rocks in front of myself as I'm trying to ride a bike. Not super helpful. So I can be kind and compassionate and encouraging and empowering to myself. And I also can take this whole piece out. Like, there's no negative side effect to speaking kindly and nicely and compassionate to yourself. And it doesn't mean always treating yourself soft and gentle with kid gloves. It just means don't be a jerk. Okay? Be nice. Use words that you would use for somebody else. We tend to be super kind and empathetic towards others and not so kind to ourselves. And so maybe even just to get started, if you find yourself in the process still of that habit and you're starting to make that change, if you notice you said something kind of like jerky to somebody else, guess what you get to say next? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry I said that. And then say something different. So maybe start there. If you notice you're being kind of a dick to yourself, notice it, apologize, and then use different words. This becomes habitual also. And when you start making a conscious effort to just be kind to yourself, treat yourself kindly, treat yourself with compassion, right? It doesn't have to be, I have to feed myself false, toxic, positive affirmations all day long so I can eventually feel good. But treat yourself with kindness, okay? Treat yourself gentle and with kindness and compassion, okay? Here we go. Okay, and somebody posted just a good comment there. All I hear is coping is bad. If you do this, then you'll never heal. So I think it is terrible if I do that. That's kind of like a black and white approach. Gentle, rather than what am I doing and why am I doing it? I like those terms. Coping is I need to do something because of this feeling. And so rather than judging what I'm doing right now and beating myself up is, wow, I'm feeling really anxious and I'm sniffing lavender a lot, sniffing my lavender, or I'm doing something to try and check to see if it's gone. okay, do I have to keep sniffing lavender? Or can I just, for 5 seconds, I'm going to practice just being still for 5 seconds. Then I can go back into doing whatever old coping mechanisms I've been used to doing. But for little bits of time, I'm going to start doing something different. And I'm going to start small, and maybe I'm going to grow it from there. We tend to think all or nothing, right? Either I do it all perfect, just right, or I failed and I'm never going to get better. So pay attention to that black and white mindset too. That never really gets us out. See? And there's the comment again. Thank you. I have the feeling I have to do it right all the whole time. There's an or else attached to it. Or else, so Esther just commented on that. That was your post. I have to do it right the whole time, or else. What's your or else? Or else, and my guess is, I'm never going to get better. I'll never heal. And so every time I make a mistake, I'm going to punish myself for the mistake. Such a common trap. Must or else. Whatever you're doing, if it's must or else, it's driven by urgency. That's the disordered piece. Must do this or else. Not true. Gentle, looser, lighter. Okay, I want to try and get at least one or two more questions in here. Where are we? We actually addressed this on the call, but I wanted to say it again. I am constantly scared of my feelings, even ones that aren't necessarily negative. How does DARE help me regulate my response to feelings? Okay, it's a great question, and it comes up a lot. And so I think this is a good question to leave people thinking about, because you're going to have a variety of feelings between now and the next webinar. And notice which ones show up that you become embattled with. Not necessarily how I feel. Notice how I treat certain feelings differently than others. And we just might treat all feelings kind of like, oh, these are allowed, these are not allowed. And we cling to the good ones. And when the ones we don't like come back, it's, oh God, I have to deal with this again. Oh, I finally just got a glimmer of hope into happiness, but I was only happy for 5 minutes and then it all went away. This is really not how we were meant to treat feelings. Feelings are transient. Feelings are like the weather. We treat feelings by just feeling them, really. They get experienced. Whatever state you are, that's the state you're in. That's kind of it. What comes after that, again, our story, our battle, the meaning we attach to it, how we treat that feeling. If we're treating that feeling as a threat, then then here comes that feeling and anxiety. Okay. So, and one thing that's always interesting to pay attention to, and we did this on in the DARE coaching, the monthly coaching group, DARE Advanced. We had a whole group on, like, growing up, how are you taught to treat your feelings? And maybe not even taught directly, but indirectly by what you observed, by how other people treated feelings. And it was a really interesting conversation. Like, for example, in my family, surprising, I grew up seeing people much better at getting angry, like anger, which was much more accepted than being hurt or vulnerable. And if you were hurt, you responded in anger, you don't respond in sad. Nobody did this on purpose. This was just sort of, I don't know, Bronx Italian way, New York kind of thing. I don't know. But I more often saw people get angry than cry. And when people cried, it was a hidden thing, or it was in their rooms, or it was very rare. Okay. But then also sent the message to me of, oh, it's okay to cry. But I didn't see that it was okay to cry because nobody else cried. Everybody else got angry. Okay. And so it's just nothing was ill-intended. There was no ill intention there, but that was just other people's families maybe cried a lot, but don't get anger, because that's not the proper way. Oh, we don't get angry. Even that person still may feel angry, that those kids growing up might have seen, well, when we get angry, we kind of put the kibosh on it. We don't do anything about it. We fight it. We lock it up. And so we develop an unhealthy relationship with anger. We develop an unhealthy relationship with fear. We develop an unhealthy relationship with sad. And so every time that feeling comes up, we try and not feel it, or it has a meaning attached to it. And so being scared of my feelings, remember, scare doesn't come from the thing. Your body sends you fear for things. So my body sent me fear for sad because I'm really sad, but my story about sad is one of danger. And so now my alarm has sent me sad so I can use fear to get through sad and to not feel sad and to get rid of sad and to do a whole lot of things until sad passes, and then I'll be okay. You see? And so it's still treating fluctuating, transient, non-danger feelings as danger. And that's not how we were meant to live. You don't turn inward and regulate a self-regulating system. If you turn inward, you turn inward to be an observer. You turn inward to notice. And all things like grounding and meditation weren't designed to do something to get through the feeling until the feeling passes. They're really to teach people how to be more of a beer while I feel, rather than doing it to desperately hang on until the feeling passes. All right, guys. I didn't see any of you, but nice to see you guys talking in the chats. And I will see you on the next webinar. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the DARE podcast. The DARE app has over 1 million downloads and is helping people all around the world to overcome anxiety and panic attacks. You can download the app for free at dareresponse.com.